Here we go, folks. We are on episode number, let me look here. I got it on my script. I think we're in number 48. And yeah, episode number 48. That's crazy. We've been doing this for over a year. And I just got to thank the companies that make it possible for us to sit here every Wednesday night and talk elk hunting with all of you. And that is Bowtech, Leupold, Ripcord, Tight Spot, Black Gold, Onyx, who gives you 20% off using promo code Randy, Go Hunt, that gives you $50 of free store credit if you use promo code Randy, and Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, that gives you 15% off if you use promo code Randy. So that's pretty cool. If you want to get notified about these, text Randy to 77453, share it with all your friends, and hopefully we can continue doing this. But out of respect for all of you and for what next Wednesday is, Independence Day, we won't be live next Wednesday. But we've got look at all this coming across here. This is amazing how many people are on this. Let's see. Someone says someone's moving to Bozeman. Well, hopefully when you move to Bozeman, you can figure out. I better not say that. Yeah, I better not say that. There's some things that go through my mind that I got to use a filter on. So, all right. John Johnson asks, how do you find water in a game management unit using Onyx? They're little blue dots. You click on, make sure that all the layers are on that you need, and you'll see them. They'll show up as little blue dots. We talked about that. When did we film that part yesterday? Was it yesterday? What's today? Monday or yesterday? We filmed the part that answered that question. And so, those of you who watched on Monday, you saw the first of our elk e-scouting series. And we're doing that with the folks at Onyx. That was an overview. And we started the series out, I think we said we were going to do 8 videos. Well, then we got up to 10, and now we are at 12. And who knows, by the time we're done, we might end up with 13 or 14 of them. But a lot of the questions that we're covering in this e-scouting series, cyber scouting, desk scouting, whatever you want to call it, are coming from what we accumulate right here from Elk Talk Live. We have a year's worth of questions from all of you, and that's a huge part of what you're going to see in that entire series. So if it ends up, I don't know, 12 episodes, 14, doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that we're covering as much of it as we possibly can. Oh gosh, let's see. Logan drew his first elk tag. Good deal. I hope you find one. That would be a great opportunity if you could go on your first elk tag and fill that tag. So one of the things that we talked about in the episodes that we filmed this week, and so in the e-scouting series, we're kind of putting in place the building blocks about edges, transition areas, canopy disruptions, burns, hunting pressure, boundaries, sanctuaries. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what all of them were. Then this week we filmed the 2 critical ones that kind of take all the preceding videos and start putting them together. And those 2 videos we filmed this week are about the 4 primary needs that elk have, the fact that food, water, sanctuary, security, survival, whatever you want to call that, I call it the 3 S's, sanctuary, security, survival, and breeding. Breeding's a temporary seasonal need. So we went through all 4 of these needs and how in this part of the hunting season, food and water might be number 1 and sanctuary might be number 4. You come to another part of the season, breeding might be number 1 and sanctuary is number 3. You get to the end of the season, sanctuary is number 1 through 5 and breeding is nowhere on the map. The reason we focus on needs is to know where you're going to find an elk. The whole part of this is where, right? Where can I find an elk? Where can I go that I consistently find elk? That's the whole riddle, is where. Well, the where is determined by what is the need at the time of year you're hunting. You're going to go to wherever that elk can satisfy the primary need. Not all 4 of the needs, because there's never a time of year where all 4 needs are primary. I look at, and this whole plan is built around, what's the primary need of that season? And that's where we go to. And by the time we're done looking at needs, we have a map of our unit with all kinds of little waypoints. And when you scale back, you look at your map and you're like, boy, there's a big cluster of likely spots over here in the north central part of this unit. I'm going to focus there. And then we start getting into the 5 periods of the elk hunting season. And you've heard me talk about it here in prior videos or Elk Talk live sessions, is every one of these periods that I talk about, I give them, this is the elk calendar. And then a lot of people want to equate that to what's the human calendar. You know, elk don't have August, September, October. They have the early season, the pre-rut, the peak rut, the post-rut, and the late season. Well, if you want me to, I'll overlay what the human calendar is of each of those periods, and know that it's not an exact science where today it's early season and tomorrow, September 1st, we're going to go right to pre-rut. No, there's this transition. It's never a really quick, immediate change from one season to another. And depending on where you're at in latitude, and also elevation sometimes might alter this by a few days one way or the other. But for me, for most of the places I'm hunting, anything in August up until August 31st, that's all early season. Then my pre-rut is about September 10th or September 1st to the 10th, somewhere in there. And then my peak rut, surely by September 12th, I'm thinking peak rut. And that can run all the way to October 5th to the 8th. And then the peak rut transitions into the post-rut. Certainly by October 15th, the mature bulls are in their post-rut phase. And that slowly transitions into the late season, which for me is anything after November. Like November, December, January is late season. So Halloween to me is kind of the end of post-rut and becomes the late season starting November 1st. And so you're probably saying, well, why does that matter? Well, the reason it matters is because the primary need, the number one need of those 4 that I'm focusing on, is going to be way different in the pre-rut than it is in the late season. So if you're seeing elk in the pre-rut, they are there satisfying their need for breeding and possibly water. If you're there, it's hunting in the same unit in the late season, they have no interest in breeding. It's cooler temperatures, so water is way down the priority list. There you're looking for places that give them sanctuary. So on the same unit of the entire, your map where your tag is good for, elk move from the early season to the late season based on how the needs they have change throughout that season. And if you want to consistently find them, you have to know what the primary need is, know where that primary need can be satisfied out on the landscape, and that's where you're going to find elk. So that's what these next 2 pieces are. We take all of the previous videos and we kind of start stacking them together. And in these 2 videos, it all comes together, kind of the system. And now in the videos we're going to do next week, we're going to actually build a plan. We're going to build an e-scouting plan for the hardest season that there is in all of them, the post-rut period. If you can build a plan for the post-rut period, it's really easy to use the same principles to build a plan for the late season or build a plan for the peak rut or the pre-rut. So that's what this whole thing is going to be about. I hope when we're all done that it ends up being something where people say, yeah, that makes sense. Glad I watched that. Rather than say, boy, that Newberg, he's a knucklehead. I don't know why I wasted all my time on this. So Marcus is here tonight. He is answering or grabbing questions from live stream and from Instagram. Is that it, Marcus? Yep. Yeah. And So he's grabbing questions. He's giving them to me on a Google Doc, and I'm trying to answer them. Let's see. Someone wants to know, do I hunt public land, or did I hunt public land before the GPS and onX maps? Yep. I've been hunting public land since about 1976. So, yeah, I did. Do you ever hunt on the public-private borders? Yeah, I do. In fact, last week on Elk Talk Live, a week ago, we went through a lot of discussion about how borders can create a sanctuary. Well, when we get into the discussion, you'll see in the e-scouting series that we do a whole video on sanctuaries, and one of the things we talk about is how borders create sanctuaries. Do I ever hike established hiking trails and then go off trail, or do you break your own trail? No, a lot of times we're on established trails because that's the quickest, fastest, easiest way to cover ground out in the landscape. But I know I'm going to take that trail to some bend or some pass or saddle, and then I'm going to have to bushwhack it. So I use trails as much as I can until I just can't do it anymore. Let's see. So how soon would you recommend I start scouting an area that I'm unfamiliar with? I'm not sure how far away you live from that unit, but if you live a day's drive away from that unit, I would save that scouting day and go there a day or two before your season. I'd scout from my computer, from my desk as much as I could, and then I'd take what I had allotted for scouting days, I would go and do those just before my season opens. Because the closer you are to your season, the more relevant the scouting information is going to be. To go and scout elk in August when they're in the early season mode and they're up high and the bulls are bachelored up and they're on a feed pattern, does you no good of scouting for where the elk are going to be if you have a post-rut tag in late October. The elk are going to be in a completely different place. The only real value you're going to have is maybe learning the road system or stuff like that. So I tell people, save your scouting days, or if you want to, you're just determined you want to go scout, do it as close to the days you're going to hunt as possible, because then your scouting intel will be a lot more relevant. When e-scouting a unit, would you recommend a wilderness area over public land? Depends on the time of year. If I have a peak rut tag and the elk are down, the bulls are down where the cows are, I'm not going to go up in that rock and granite because there aren't going to be as many bulls up there. So it all depends. So you're going to hear me answer a lot of these questions with it depends. Now, if it was a late season hunt, I'd probably at least go to some roadless area over some of the other public land, because then the elk are in sanctuary mode. They're trying to get away from people. And the bulls are more likely to be in that nasty, craggy stuff or at the foot of it. So to answer the question would be a certain answer if it's a late season hunt versus a different answer if it's a pre-rut hunt. So when we're done with the e-scouting series, I hope all of this makes sense. I think it will. Randy, when and why do you choose to use a bugle when cow calling? I think it sounds more natural. I think it carries better. That's why I do it. I might be completely wrong, but that's why I do it. Oh gosh, man, these are coming fast and furious. I'm glad there's this many people here. Let's see. Some of these questions are being asked here, and I'm not disregarding anyone. I know we're going to get to these in the e-scouting series, so if I'm skipping over some of them, hang with us. When we get the e-scouting series going, your question is going to be answered. Okay, Greg asked, okay, Randy, you've explained these primary needs in these 5 seasons of the, or 5 periods of the elk hunting season. What is the primary need in a post-rut environment? Sanctuary, survival, security. That's why states can have a huge amount of hunting pressure in late October, Colorado's second over-the-counter season, late October. Montana's general rifle season, late October. Idaho, middle of October. Wyoming, a lot of their units even into middle of October. Why? Because that is the hardest time to kill a bull elk. And they are in sanctuary mode. They are in ugly, nasty places. And the big difference between post-rut and late season is late season, they're still in sanctuary mode, but they start getting in bachelor groups again, so they're a little bit easier to find when you have 4 bulls in one spot versus 1 bull. One single bull in some bad place, some craggy, nasty thing, pretty hard animal to find. And the other part is that in the pre-rut or post-rut, these sanctuaries are going to be higher up or closer to summer range and further from winter range. In the late season, the sanctuaries they prefer are going to be closer to the winter range and farther from the summer range. So there are some differences. Just because sanctuary might be the same primary need in both the late season and the post-rut, sanctuaries that they use or that they choose are going to be ones in different locations. So, let's see. Someone's asking me if my New Mexico unit has a fire. I don't know if it does. I haven't even looked. Randy, how much smaller can a bull be on a drought year compared to an average year? Say if it was a 320-inch bull, for example. I don't know that anyone's ever done a study on this. The rule of thumb is it can be 10 to 15%. So 10% of 320 is 32. So a 320 bull, which is a really nice bull, might be a sub 300 bull. But for me, I really don't look at it that closely. It's like, that's a mature 6-point, boom. So, let's see. Boy, these are going so fast, I can't read them all. What do you look for when you live 12 hours away and you are wanting to go on your first backcountry archery elk hunt? All right, if it's archery season, I'm either going to be in the pre-rut or the peak rut. So the answer to that question determines when I plan to go. If I plan to go in the peak rut, I'm looking for where the cows will be because the cows attract the bulls. Where are the cows going to be? Where the absolute best food is. Where's the best food on the mountain? Well, maybe it's the foothills, or maybe it's where's the best food in the canyon or on the grassland. Elk are grazers. They love grasses and forbs. You really have to do research. When we're talking food, that's where things get real variable. What elk love to eat in Montana is completely different than what they're eating at the same time of year in the pinyon juniper expanses of New Mexico, which is completely different than what they're eating in the aspen areas of Colorado. So wherever you're going, and food is one of the dependent criterias, you have to do your research to know what food source elk prefer at that time of year. I've made that mistake many times. When I first started elk hunting, I knew, okay, in Montana they're looking for grasses and forbs. Then I went and hunted elk in Nevada, and they were eating sage, they were eating mahogany, they were eating juniper berries. Completely kind of tossed me for a loop. I'm like, whoa. They're still on a food pattern, but it's a different type of food. So, long way of saying it depends. So, Andrew says, explain forbs. It's young flowers, young plants. Google it. You'll see. If you Google forbs in wherever you're from, David, forbs in Pitkin County, Colorado, whole picture. I mean, all the images you're ever going to want are going to pop up. So what is the best resource for determining the food sources that we would look for while e-scouting? That's where you better get out your ecology books, your biology books, your range books. Well, I say books. Google's your friend. I read more elk studies about vegetation, about what elk eat, about what they prefer, because many of us have seen it, right? We're looking at this big mountain. We go there every morning, and it all looks the same to us. But somewhere over here in that little drainage, the elk are over there. And we're like, why is that? Well, the elk select to what they think is the most nutritional, highest quality forage on the mountain. And what might look the same to us from a distance is not the same to an elk. They've found some other plant, some other forb that's really growing well in this slightly shaded area, while the rest of the mountain is kind of turned brown in September. Over here, there's this like greener spot. Walk over there and see, oh wow, this is a slightly different grass, or there's some forbs growing in here. That's why food all food is not equal, let's put it that way. And you have to understand what the food source is in the area you're gonna hunt. There is no shortcut to that. That just requires study and research, talking to range managers, talking to scientists, biologists, ecologists. And so many people ask me, what's the best resource I've ever read or used for understanding elk needs and behaviors? And I don't know how many times I've said it on this Elk Talk Live, on my podcast, Jack Ward Thomas book, Elk and Elk Ecology. It might even be out of print now. I think you might have to buy it used on Amazon or eBay. That tells you more about the studies and other stuff that have been done on elk than any resource I'm aware of. All right. How much does my pack and gear usually weigh for a day of elk hunting, excluding your weapon? I don't know, Marcus, what do you think we're running? 25 pounds a day as our day packs?
Depends on the hunt and what we're carrying, spot scopes and stuff.
Yeah, depends on the hunt. Marcus is right. We have a spotting scope in most hunts. We have a tripod. We have what we call our kill kit with all of our Gerber knives and other tools, have game bags, have water, have a first aid kit, fire starter, maybe some extra clothes layers. It's pretty easy for us to get to between 20 and 30 pounds as our everyday, all day, this is what we carry on our back kind of pack. And that's why we use Mystery Ranch packs. You can carry a good amount of weight all day long and you really don't even know it's there. So. Let's see. When will season 6 be on Amazon? There's already 2 episodes of season 6 from Fresh Tracks on Amazon. I think. Aren't there, Marcus? Or is there? Okay. There's 2 there. We've got a bunch more waiting for approval. And I appreciate people being patient and waiting, but we can't pick up the phone and say, hey, Amazon, would you approve that for us? So we're a little bit at their mercy, but we got, I think, 9 more in the hopper that between now and the end of the year, you're going to see 9 more episodes up there. And so what's the difference between Western Montana and Eastern Montana? I think we could almost ask that same question about what's the difference between Western Oregon, Eastern Oregon, Western Colorado, Eastern Colorado, Western Wyoming, Eastern Wyoming. You have huge changes in habitat types, huge. Western Montana, Western Colorado, Western Wyoming are mountainous, heavily forested. The middle of the states start transitioning into foothills, and the eastern part of the states are grasslands. Huge differences. And then you get to Oregon and Washington. The coastal areas are very moist, wet, mostly, all Roosevelt elk. You get over the Cascades and you get this rain shadow effect, and you almost have desert type areas in eastern Oregon, eastern Washington. So across these states in the West, you will have vast differences in habitat types, which is a big thing you got to consider when you're planning your elk hunt. I mean, the way I would plan an elk hunt in eastern Montana compared to western Montana, completely different. Not even close to the same. So, when are you going to show the upgrades you've made to your hunting rig? Tomorrow morning, you're going to see one of them on YouTube, where our buddy Paul Linso at the world's greatest seat covers, Headwater Seat Covers. We went out, he put on some new seat covers, and that video goes live in the morning. We already filmed the one for the new topper, so we got them coming. Be patient. Any tips for hunting elk in Colorado in hot weather? Last few years have been really warm. yeah, it's a challenge because when it's super warm, and this gets back again, if there's one thing that every elk hunter who is successful does, they learn about elk by reading and researching. And one thing you'll find if you start researching what elk needs are, why they respond to certain conditions, whether it's cold or hot or drought, you'll read the studies that say an elk in hot weather can burn almost as much energy staying cool as he does staying warm in cold weather. So what's that elk gonna do? He's gonna go find the shadiest, coolest, luscious place he can, and he's gonna shut it down until dark when it warms up. There's really not a quote unquote easy way to hunt them in that mode. It's tough hunting. You know where they're gonna be. They're gonna be in those kind of places. They're not gonna be out on a south-facing slope when it's 90 degrees. That's gonna just wipe them out. That's gonna burn so much energy. They're gonna be in northeast facing slopes. They're gonna be in lower spots because the cooler air always settles, right? So they're gonna be in places where a couple drainages might come down together, and they're gonna be right down in that bottom so that all this cooler air, they get the benefit of it by thermal regulation, but they also have thermals moving around in there that if danger's coming, they can bolt out of there. Those are the kind of places you're gonna find them. There's no easy way to hunt them when it's hot like that. Water is probably one of your critical allies if it's that hot. Do you bother with bivvy hunts or do you day hunt and stay mobile? It depends. I just sent Marcus the map up for our film permit on one of our elk hunts, and we're gonna be bivvy hunting. It's just, it's a unit that lays out all the factors of our planning, say, let's go in there. And yeah, when we go in there, we're staking our claim. You know what? This is it. We're here for 8 days. There better be some elk here. The beauty of having a bivvy hunt is a lot of times you're away from more people. You get away and you have a better quality experience. Maybe you won't even have more elk, but you'll have fewer hunters, so it's a higher quality experience. Sometimes my spot A might be over here, spot B is down here, and they're 8 miles apart. Well, I can't be hiking 8 miles, so I got to do like a base camp setup where I can get in between my 3 top spots, and I drive to trailheads each morning. It just depends on what my scouting plan looks like. Picking where I'm going to camp and what type of camp, whether a bivvy camp or any type of base camp, that's one of the last parts of my entire e-scouting plan. It's not until I know where my primary locations are, the ones I'm really going to focus on and how far apart they are or how clustered up they are, that usually tells me if this is going to be a bivvy camp or this is going to be some type of base camp. Do predators ever influence your elk hunt? If so, how do you counter them? Quite honestly, I don't know that they've ever affected my hunt. Maybe they have, and that's why I didn't find something. But when you live where I do in Montana, you got mountain lions, you got black bears, you got grizzly bears, you got wolves. If you're going to worry about predators, you're just not going to go hunting, and I'm going hunting. And the same could be said for western Wyoming, most of Idaho. I mean, Colorado has tons of black bears, has tons of mountain lions. All the Rockies have these other species, so I don't even worry about predators. I just go. Let's see. Wow. Any hunts planned with Corey Jacobson this year? Nope. Corey and I don't have any tags together this year, but Corey and I were together last week. And I think people should pay close attention to what's going to happen on July 6th with Corey and I. I'll leave it at that. Oh, I wish I could tell people. Corey would kill me if I spilled the beans. Okay. Weston says, can I get a shout out? All right, Weston, you got a shout out. How's that, huh? So, yeah, July 6th. Be paying attention to our Instagram and all of our other platforms. Hey, our new bows from Bowtech showed up this week. Me and Michael and Dan, they each got a Realm Axe. I got a Realm. And we went out. Here's one of the beauties of where we live. Right nearby us, just out north of town here, is black gold sites. So we go out there, and Dustin and Phil, they get us all dialed in. And then Tight Spot Quivers is just down the road. Joe and those guys get us all dialed in. And then Ripcord Rest is just down south of Bozeman here a ways. Keith and those guys get us all dialed in. So we're now in serious mode getting these new bows tuned in. If I got a big smile, it's because sitting at my house right now is a really, really cool setup. Thanks to Bowtech and the other companies I mentioned. Randy, have you got to try the pop-up packs for Mystery Ranch yet? No, but I had coffee with them on Friday, and they're getting me one. So once I use it, I'll give a report here. Jeff asked, Randy, have you added another grouse arrow to your quiver yet? No, I haven't. Every arrow in my quiver is eligible to be a grouse arrow. There's no arrow that wouldn't be sacrificed for a grouse. Let's see. Randy, I saw you on Fresh Tracks. I drew a Wyoming Area 39 elk tag. Any info you can share? Yeah, if I was you, I would go out to season 5 of Team Elk out on the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation Elk Network. And myself and Mark Hervinen did a hunt there, and that was in Unit 39. You'll get about 30 minutes of in-your-face, really fresh information about Unit 39. Randy, if a trail goes through public land, can you hike on it? It depends. I mean, if it's in public, you're going to be able to hike on it. I've never seen a trail yet you can't hike on in public. But if that trail leaves public and goes on to private, it depends on whether or not the Forest Service or the state agency has an easement for that trail across the private. So Marcus, have you ever seen a public trail you couldn't hike on public land? I never have, but
I don't understand the question.
I mean, so I've seen when they leave public and go to private, then it's a concern. But I've never seen a trail on public that you couldn't hike. So, handheld GPS or mobile device, which do you prefer in the field? The Instagram feed is my mobile device today. Marcus and Michael have convinced me to 100% that I'm a fool by using my old style GPS. I download the map, get it on my smartphone, put my smartphone on airplane mode. My GPS still works when I'm in airplane mode. And I can now get all the layers. I can get aerial view. Try getting any of that stuff on an old traditional GPS. You can't. So I'm a smartphone guy. They've got me. Even an old gray-haired curmudgeon like me, onX has figured out how to make it better even for guys like me. And if I can figure out how to do it, I can assure you anyone who's watching this has figured out how to do it. Let's see. When using onX, how much of the unit do you pre-download in your maps? I don't know that. I'd say I usually do the smallest one, and I might do multiple maps of the smallest one. What is that, Marcus? 5x5? The smallest onX one? I should know that.
5x10, I believe.
Is it? Okay, and then they have the 10x10. And then they have the really big one. I like the smallest one.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's 5 miles by 5 miles.
Yeah.
And I'll download however many it takes to cover the areas that I'm looking for. Sometimes I'll do the 10x10 if it's, all right, everything I'm looking for is clustered in one tight spot. Then I'll do the 10x10, but I'm usually a 5x5 guy. Oh man, Mr. Mike asks, what's your biggest failure as an elk hunter? I didn't start hunting elk early enough. I don't know. I had a long discussion with Corey Jacobson and I when we were together last week doing some stuff. We spent 2.5 hours in a discussion about each of us had our 5 greatest elk hunting mistakes. And it was funny, only 2 of them, each of us had a common one. And then the other 4 that each of us had were slight derivatives of what the other person had. And we didn't get through all of them in 2.5 hours. That's how many mistakes I've made. In 2.5 hours, I couldn't even explain my 5 biggest mistakes, Mike. So we're not going to keep everybody on on here worrying about Randy's mistakes. So, but they'll get a chance to hear about all those mistakes when that gets released. All right. What is this one? You had Nosler load of 3.8. Okay. Yeah, Mike is asking, you went to Nosler and you guys loaded a bunch of 308 ammo. How about 7mm 08 load? With my 7mm 08, if I'm hunting elk, I've got 140 grain Nosler E-tip. E like echo, E-tip. Unbelievable bullet. And the 7mm 08's on the low end of what I like for elk, but I know a lot of guys who shoot a lot of elk with a 7mm 08. Just get the best bullet you possibly can. All right, Adam says, hey, Adam, thanks for answering questions. Says, go to Randy's YouTube page. Yeah, please go to our YouTube page. We have a YouTube page that I think right now we're pushing, is it 600 videos up there, Marcus? I thought I saw that it was like over 600 videos now on our YouTube page.
They're all live, but yeah, there's a ton of them.
That is a gob of videos. And I bet you over half of them have to do with elk hunting. Oh, Robert, you and I have the same problem here. Robert Wood asks, hey, an old deaf bow hunter here, how would you go about calling elk if hunting alone and have very much near to 0 hearing? Hearing enhancements and aids only give me a small range and I have no idea where the elk is. Any suggestions? My only suggestion I've found, Robert, is because my right ear is my only good ear. My left ear, I can't hear anything. Why? Because when I was younger, I was stupid. I did a lot of boom, boom, boom with this ear exposed to muzzle blast without protection. And I'm paying for it now. So when an elk's bugling, I'm walking around in a circle to the right because I am hearing everything out of my right ear. So my suggestion is, bring some young, good ears like Marcus and Michael and Dan with you. And when I start walking in a circle to the right, they'll kind of grab me and say, no, Randy, he's out this way. That's really the only solution I've found, Robert. I would like to tell you that I have a better solution, but I don't. So just kind of how it is. What Sitka pants do you wear during the late season? It's my uniform. Timberline pants from Sitka are for elk hunting, anything from October 1st until the end of season. I don't even think about anything else. And if it's warm, I don't put a base layer on underneath them. If it's cold, I'll put either a thin base layer or a heavier base layer on underneath them. I've got some pairs I've worn for years and years, days and days in the nasty stuff, and they look like they're brand new. Oh, someone wants to know, what reticle am I using with my CDS styles? I'm a duplex guy. And if you go to Leupold.com, check out their CDS system on their scopes. Yeah. For the hunting stuff that I do, I've found nothing as simple and as effective as that CDS system. I tell them, all right, here's my load. I got a 308. I'm using Nosler 165 grain partitions. Here's the ballistic coefficient. Here's the sectional density. I go out, run it through a chrono, and it says, okay, you're at 2,800 and whatever feet per second. I give them all that data. I tell them I have 100 yard zero. I tell them my normal hunting conditions are 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 7,000 feet elevation. Once I get that thing zeroed, I just range it, spin my dial to whatever the range is, and hold dead on. I don't know who invented that idea at Leupold, but they should be president. That is unbelievable how good it works. What is the rate for Marcus and Michael's Sherpa services? I don't know. I'm not sure if they are for hire as Sherpas, but maybe Marcus would. Maybe he's moonlighting out there. How often are the e-scouting videos coming out? Every Monday. So this Monday you're going to see another one. Let's see. Do I ever use a mountain bike to get around on public land? Not much. I know some people do, and I admire those that do it that way, but I'm not a bicycle guy. I don't know. It just doesn't work that well for me. So Brian asks, I love the CDS, but does your ammo data need to match your rangefinder? Because you make it sound easier than I found it to be. Well, my ammo data is what I give Leupold, and they etch my dial that gets put on the top, the CDS dial. My rangefinder, when I do my 100-yard zero, I make sure that that's with my rangefinder. And we did 2 videos last summer about rangefinders. This is really important. Some of the lower level rangefinders will give you, if you hit a bright colored object, a white object, the pulse back to your rangefinder is going to be way stronger because they don't have the technology to modulate that and account for a white reflection. And so it's going to feel like a really strong pulse, and it's going to give you an incorrect reading. And the same on those cheaper ones. If you hit a black object, black absorbs more light and doesn't reflect as much light, so it's going to feel a weaker pulse, and it's going to give you the incorrect range. That's why you don't skimp on a rangefinder. I have Leupolds, when they came out with the TBRs, I have a couple of them that are the 1000s. I got the 1200s, and they got an email the other day, they're sending me the new 1600s, and they're bomb proof. Here's one other thing with rangefinders you really need to understand. So, how does a rangefinder work, right? And we explain this in the YouTube videos. Go out to our YouTube channel and just Google rangefinder, and those videos will come up. But most people think that the crosshairs that you have lined up on your rangefinder eyepiece is exactly where the laser is pointing. Not always. Some of the cheaper rangefinders that don't have high quality control, it's off by 3 degrees to the left, or it's high by 2 degrees. And what happens? You got a deer standing out there at 200 yards, and you got your crosshairs on that deer, but your laser is going over the deer and hitting a rock 60 yards behind it. So now, instead of you thinking that deer is at 200, or the deer's at 200, but your range finder hits a rock over the deer's back at 260. You hold for 260, and what happens? You shoot over the deer. Or sometimes it's off this direction from where your crosshairs are. And what happens? All right, same deer's out there at 200, and your rangefinder misses the deer, and it hits a tree 80 yards behind the deer. Or maybe it's low, so it hits the dirt, a rock in front of the deer at 150, and the deer's out there at 250. So you hold for 150, what happens? It goes underneath the deer. And with archery, the same thing can happen. So in those videos, we show you how to check to make sure that your rangefinder laser, the pulse of your laser, is exactly lined up with the crosshairs of the sight picture in the eyepiece of your rangefinder. So, Leupold's rangefinders, I've never had a problem with any of them. In fact, it was Tim Lesser at Leupold. He was at my house one day, and he's like, yeah, some of our competitors, these low-end things, look at this. And I'm like, whoa, would have never thought that. And then he showed me how you test it to make sure. And those 2 videos talk about that. Anyhow, didn't mean to get into a long dissertation about rangefinders, but when you're using these turret systems like the CDS, you want to make sure that you're using your rangefinder so that when your rangefinder says it's 100, you want to be zeroed at that 100 so that they're exactly synced. So how do you find the ballistic coefficient of the bullet to give to your CDS dial? Well, it's pretty easy. You go out to Nosler or you go out to whoever, and they will have right there, what the ballistic coefficient of the bullet is and what the sectional density is. So, let's see. Whew, boy, man, that's a long question there. I don't even think I could read that before it got through the screen. Randy, do you hunt areas that have been thinned the same as you do with burns? I think it might be the video that gets released next Monday or possibly the next Monday. We talk about canopy disruptions and edges, and burns and timber thinning are kind of the same thing. They disrupt the canopy, light comes in. The better part of burns versus thinning or clear cuts is that burns will burn that mat of needles and leaves and stuff off there. A lot of times logging doesn't. And that mat of needles and leaves, it helps with the nutrients in the soil, but it also helps let water penetrate into the soil so that when it does rain, all that water gets absorbed by these new plants. And that's why I have burns as a slightly preferred canopy disruption over thinning and logging operations. So, wow, there's a lot in here today. Some of these I know the answer to, but I can't tell because we're under sworn secrecy of some of the things we're working on. I like that some of you are asking some of these questions. The answers will come pretty soon. Clarence wants to know, what do you guys use to recharge your batteries? What do you use to recharge your phone battery, Marcus? Is it a Mophie or something like that?
No, I have no idea. They're just things I bought off Amazon.
Yeah, you go to Amazon and you buy these rechargeable battery packs and make sure you have a USB that comes out that matches your phone. And I don't know, that one I have, I think I can get 4 phone chargers out of it, which usually is enough for a hunt. So that's what we do. They weigh a little bit, and obviously try to keep them as warm as you can because when they get cold, some of the charge gets out of them. But it's how we do it. Holy smokes. Am I missing a bunch of them, Marcus?
I have some on I've been trying to delete the ones you've answered.
Okay. What's the highest elevation you've ever seen an elk? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I know I've seen them over 11,000 feet. How high were we in Arizona last year, Marcus? We were at 10 something. I killed one at over 10 last year in Arizona, so I haven't really thought about it. Sorry about that. Randy, I don't have a chronograph to test ammo speeds. How much variation have you found between the speeds on the box versus out in the field? You know, I can't speak about that for all brands. The Nosler ammo that I use, it's really close. I mean, we're talking, if the box says 2,800, I'm usually plus or minus only 5 feet per second, one way or the other in the chrono. I can't speak for other ammo. I just know that the precision that Nosler uses, if I had to, I could probably trust what's on the box. But that qualifier to that is what's on the box is dependent upon a lot of things. You know, if you've got a shorter barrel on your rifle, that is going to cost you a few feet per second. Every inch you shorten your barrel costs you a couple feet per second. So if Nosler or whatever ammo company is reporting velocities on the box based on a 26-inch barrel and you're using a 20-inch barrel, you're going to have some differences there. That's why I tell people chrono it if you possibly can, or find someone who has a chrono and do it. So, so Randy, if you are on public land and you see an elk on public land, but there is private land between you and the elk, do you shoot? No, I don't. Because I got to figure out how am I going to get across that private land. So I'm on this ridge, it's public, the elk's over there that's public, but it's private in between. No, I'm not going to shoot because I got to get over there right away to check and see. And I'm not going to cross somebody's private land that I don't have permission on to go check. So in that instance, I'm going to pass. In a lot of places that we hunt, I end up passing just because of these public-private issues. And I know when the places I choose to hunt, because I use borders and boundaries as a sanctuary, we went into that in great detail last week. I know that sometimes I'm going to encounter an elk and I'm just going to have to walk away. But if you accept that as a mindset of a reality of how it is in the places you choose to hunt, you just accept it and you move on. It doesn't become a big frustration. Any advice on a single pin versus a multi-pin bow sight? It's kind of personal preference. My black gold descent, I have a 3-pin. I've had 4 this year. I told them, you know, give me a 3. My first is 20, 30, 40. I'm getting older. My eyes are getting worse and worse. Gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's the case. That's the reality. And I love the hunt, so I would rather get to 40 and know that I'm going to have to pass on some of those 50s and 60-yard shots. I'm not that proficient with a bow anyhow, so I'm going to a 3-pin this year. I'm getting rid of my 50-yard pin. And I know it's going to cost me some encounters, but you know what? I accept that. That's all right. How are the walleye biting? Boy, they were biting pretty good. Did all of you go to our YouTube channel and see the walleye recipe? When was that? We put that out yesterday, didn't we, Marcus? Oh, yeah. I gave my wife's secret walleye recipe to the world. That's going to cost me so much. I don't know how I'm going to have to repay it, but I'm going to have to. This is marital advice. I usually save marital advice for my podcast, which is Hunt Talk Radio, Leopold's Hunt Talk Radio. If you listen to podcasts, go out to Stitcher or iTunes and download our podcasts. You'll get a lot of marital advice on that because I'm coming up on my 30th wedding anniversary. But this person says, Randy, thanks for all your hard work that benefits us hunters. Did your wife have any idea when you got married how much of a hunting addict you were? Yeah, she did. Has she ever attempted to slow you down? Not for any reason that wasn't reasonable. She has a standing offer. Anytime I'm going, she can come with. I would never disinvite her. I don't care if it's all my buddies and it's a supposed guys thing only. If she wants to come with, there's room for her. There's space for her. So she knows that. And I don't have any other distractions in life. I don't golf. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't gamble. I don't go out with the guys. When I'm not hunting, she runs the calendar. And it works for us. So, I don't know. I guess everybody's going to go at it a little differently. She might be listening to this and she's probably trying to chime in. Hey, wait a second. Let me give my answer to that question. So someone just heard that answer and says, define reasonable. You're going to have to work that out with the significant other. Oh, Chris says, thanks for information on the Arizona Super Big Game Raffle. We did a video this morning on that. By July 15th is the deadline. The Arizona Super Big Game Raffle, you go and buy these raffle tickets, and if you win, you get to hunt that species for 365 days in any unit in Arizona. I buy some of those tickets every year. And if I don't win, I know that that money's going to Arizona Game and Fish. It's going to be used for their conservation programs. And with that money, they can leverage it anywhere from, sometimes they get 3 to 4 to 5 times the matching dollars for every dollar they come up with. If you get a chance, Google Arizona Super Big Game Raffle, and by July 15th, buy your ticket. Thanks for the reminder on that one. Let's see. A lot of you, this is cool that there's this conversation going on where some of you are answering other people's questions. I'm still laughing about the one who says define reasonable. Randy, if you just like to hunt and aren't a trophy hunter, do you shoot the first legal bull you see? Yeah, in many instances I do. I think last year, Marcus, you shot the first bull we saw in Wyoming. And I was going to shoot the second bull we saw if we could have got another one to come into camera range before the blizzard hit. I don't care. I mean, in Montana this year, well, I might have a lot of meat in my freezer. So sometimes if I have a lot of meat in my freezer, I'm just there more trying to extend the experience, and I'll come up with some excuse of why not to do it. But if I'm low on meat, the first legal bull I see, I'm going to try to kill him. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'm going to try. So doesn't bother me at all to shoot a raghorn or whatever's legal. Tyler asks, what broadhead are you using for elk this season? I get asked that a lot. Jarrett and those guys at Bone Broadheads, I shot them last year in practice. And I'm like, man, these things are dead on. And this year, I'm really getting excited about them. So this is my second year of using them, and I think they're going to be really, really good. Randy, have you hunted caribou? No, I haven't. I'm going to someday. Mountain caribou is on the top of my want-to-do list. All right. What more we got here? Should I worry about rattlesnakes in the breaks? You might encounter some. I've seen rattlesnakes out just about every September. We run into someone we're elk hunting. I don't worry about them. I mean, I believe in snake karma. If I leave them alone, they'll leave me alone. I don't know if that's true or not. So far, it's worked. A lot of people get pretty serious about, trying to eliminate any snake they come across. I don't. So, oh man, I need to learn how to read faster. I can see that. These comments, at least on my laptop screen, they can like, brrr, and I'm trying to read it all and think about it. Let's see, how far do you camp from an elk you scouted in the preseason? At least a mile. Depends on what the terrain lays out like, what the thermals are going to be. There's a lot of things that go into that. We're going to cover that in the e-scouting series. It'll probably be one of the last ones, last videos. Riley asks, Randy, you ever use a hammock? And what are your thoughts? I haven't. My buddy Pat sent me one. It's in my shop. But after Mike Spitzer brought his hammock to Alaska, I'm thinking that midday naps in a hammock are the cat's meow. That's like, I need to give a lot of thought to that. Oh, yeah. Cody just responded to Travis. Reminder, July 2nd, you can start buying your elk, deer, and antelope points in Wyoming. So if you missed the draw this year and you didn't accumulate a point already for 2018, you can, starting July 2nd, I think it runs till September 30th, buy your point so that you'll have that point available to you when the draw comes next year. Addison asks, Randy, when did you transition towards buying more expensive gear? Once I could afford it. I mean, when I first started elk hunting, I had, hand-me-downs. I had this. I went to the thrift store. I went to the used bit. It's whatever my budget could afford. And I, just when you hunt as many days as I hunt, I want the gear that's going to make me more comfortable, because the more comfortable I am, the more time I'm going to spend out there no matter what condition, and the more effective I'm going to be. So, but there's just, we all have budgets. So I can't say there was a time when I started buying higher quality gear. I look at it as an investment, right? You can either have cash going out the door as an expense that you got to pay for every year, or it goes out the door for an investment that is something you have every year that is an asset that helps you. I want my gear to be an investment in an asset, not an every year expense. So, let's see. Randy, when are you going to cat road shuffle with Born and Raised? I don't know. I think I've thrown out there. I don't know that I can hint any harder to those guys about how bad I want to go hunting with them next August for Archery Roosevelt. So maybe we'll see how it goes. Oh, Randy, how do I know if I should skip a burn? We get into that, I think, in video number 3 in the e-scouting series. We talk about how not all burns are created equal, size of burns, intensity of the burn, age of the burn, location of the burn, the outline and shape of the burn, and how even at that, there are some burns that you want to skip. So hopefully that'll answer that question. So I don't, the born and raised guys do that cat road shuffle. I think you need to do the Icky shuffle, right? If you were my age, Icky Woods, this running back for the Cincinnati Bengals, he was like the coolest dancer in the world. And then they brought him back for a Geico commercial about 3-4 years ago. Get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts. Go Google Icky Woods Geico. You will laugh so hard. I think when I shoot an elk this year, Marcus, I'm going to do the Icky shuffle. Got some cold cuts, got some cold cuts. Woo! Yeah, that would do it, man. The Icky shuffle. You got to go, folks, I'm not kidding you, man. You got to go and do the Icky shuffle. Go and Google Icky shuffle Geico commercial. You will be laughing so hard. When I first saw that on TV, my wife thought that I was choking to death. And they aired it for about 2 years, and every time I saw it, I'd laugh just as hard. But I think we lost the Instagram feed, didn't we, Marcus? Or are we going to? It only goes for 60 minutes. I think we hit we are terminal maybe on Instagram right now. Hey, Chads, you're not impressed with my Icky shuffle? Well, then just leave, man. Come on, I'm risking my credibility here doing the Icky shuffle. You need to go watch it. And my wife says I do a pretty good rendition of it. So, Randy, any experience with the Howa rifle in the HS Precision stock? Yeah, I got 2 of them. Everyone asks me what I'm using as a rifle this year. I'm lucky in the Howa lets me kind of pick and choose. So we're kind of in a testing phase right now. Howa is asking me, go try this, try that, this combination of stock, of barrel length, of cartridge and whatever. You're gonna see me using so many different combinations this year. And the idea is that come 2019, my years of experimenting with Howa and really experimenting hard this year, I mean, pushing it, we're going to come up with some ideas that people say, oh man, I like that. So can't let that cat out of the bag yet. Jonathan Pikes, Dairy Queen and the Icky Shuffle. It's the small things in life. Jonathan, I wish I had your email, man. I'd send you a high five. Travis says he can get me a DQ hat. Hey man, I already got a DQ hat. DQ sent me this pin. I'm trying to remember who sent it to me, but Mike says Jerry's Donuts in Rawlins, Wyoming. Is that a must stop? It is. You must have watched our day-by-day episode of Jim Bachtel's pronghorn hunt. Jerry's Donuts in Rawlins, Wyoming are the best donuts from Omaha, Nebraska to Reno, Nevada. If you're driving I-80, stop at Jerry's Donuts in Rawlins, Wyoming. But anyhow, the DQ hat, I don't need one. I got like a double diamond franchise owner pin that when I walk into DQ, everyone's like, oh man, this guy's here to do an inspection or something. So, let's see. Someone says, my wife loved that you used the word budget. Hey, we all have a budget. One of my friends was over at the house this weekend. He said, you know, sometimes when I run out of budget, I just go out and I find a bigger budget. Every time he says that, I laugh. So now I think this is what the person meant. They've restated the question. Hey, Randy, can I hike on a trail that starts on public and then goes on to private and then goes back to public? It depends. If that trail does not have an easement across that private, the answer is no. You can't. You'd be trespassing. So You got to understand that stuff. You need to know. You need to call the agency, the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, or the state agency and say, hey, this trail crosses private. Does it have an easement where it crosses private? Because if it doesn't, you need landowner permission. Just how it goes. So, Jared asks, is your son a better shot than you? Probably. I know he is with a shotgun. There's a lot of people who are a better shot than I am. Let's see. Wilderness areas or private land borders? A bit of both. Just depends on the season I'm going to be hunting and where the elk are going to go to satisfy that need. Randy, do you use a stabilizer on your bow? Yep, I do, Kurt. Let's see. Someone says, Randy, reminder, you can buy bonus points in Montana as well. Thanks, John. I had forgot about that. How much range time do we have before our first hunt, Marcus? I think we got about 4 or 5 weeks, don't we? Yeah. We're starting early this year. I think we need one really good one, Marcus. You got a really good one that you've been hanging on to here? Let's see. Someone wants to know if we want to do a Fresh Tracks Blizzard at Dairy Queen. I know what I forgot to do. I forgot to tell people that out at bowtecharchery.com, you can sign up to win a free fully guided elk hunt in Colorado with Nate Zielinski. Nate's a great guy. I think go to bowtecharchery.com and sign up, or you can text HUNT, H-U-N-T, to 77453. And the promo or the sweepstakes is running until August 10th. You got to be 18, must be a resident of the U.S. or Canada. It includes everything: tags, travel, transportation, you name it, food, lodging. And it's going to be filmed in Colorado, I think, September 14th through the 20th, if I remember right. So, bowtecharchery.com, go out there and do that. And never too early to start practicing your calling, right? So, what you need to do, you go out to Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, and right here, see that? Here in the office, we have calls laying all over the place. This one happens to be their Reaper. I'm really starting to like this one. I don't know why I hadn't encountered it before, but it's great. But when you go out there and buy stuff, use promo code RANDY and get 15% off. And then when you go to gohunt.com, we talk about this insider service that we use. Right now, they got a 30-day free trial. So I think they're running that into October. So if you sign up today, they give you 30 free days. Just find out everything that's in there, the draw odds, the research, the strategy articles. And then if you decide to keep it, use promo code RANDY, and they're going to give you $50 of free credit in their gear shop. That's all good stuff there. Marcus, what's our last question? You got to have a good one. We've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes.
Put them all on the dock.
Okay, let me see if I can find one really, really good one. Let's see. Boy, some of these questions are like really, really long. Let's see. Boy, some of these questions are so long, it'd take us another hour and 10 minutes to answer them all. Oh, here's a good one. How long does one pair of Kenetrek boots last you? I have a pair of Kenetrek Mountain Extreme 400s that I've had since 2006. I have a pair of non-insulated Mountain Extremes that I've had since 2011. I have a pair of Bridger Hikers, or Hard Scrabbles, I think they are. They're low top leather boot that I've had since 2010. And I just picked up a new pair of their new, is it called Mountain Guide? Is that what it is, Marcus? Not Pro Guide, it's the new Mountain Guide. I've been hiking in those this summer. I bet they're gonna last me 8, 10 years. Every once in a while, I gotta bring them back and say, hey, can you put new soles on these? But they just keep right on going. And great boots. Anyhow, folks, next week is 4th of July, right? Next Wednesday. We're all gonna take the day off. I hope you take the day off, and remember that you live in the greatest country in the world. Independence Day. We celebrate our rights, our liberties, all the great things about being an American. I hope that you celebrate that on the 4th of July, and we'll see you the week after on July 11th. Thanks for watching.